Welcome back to another episode of From the Horse's Mouth, where today I'm sitting with Nathan Valentine, winemaker at Villiera. Nathan, thanks a lot for having me this afternoon.
No, thanks for having me.
I'm very excited to actually taste something very peculiar. So I'm hoping that maybe I'm reaching out to a few people that don't know this, but Villiera have invested in a property out in France, which allows them to obviously produce wines with characteristics that might be uncommon to what we experience in South African wines.
No, for sure, yeah. No, look, it's more or less the same climatic conditions there. A bit of a Mediterranean climate. I think they receive slightly more rain than us, and it gets shit hot there. And it's humid. So we've been producing wines there since 2006, and one of the main white varieties we work with there is Macabeo.
Oh, cool.
And you might know this as Macabeo or Macabeo, or even Villiera is another version that they grow in Loja.
Yeah, for sure. So it's the variety, one of the varieties.
It's the same variety. Well, as far as I know, it's the same variety, just a different name according to the region. Back a couple of years ago, we don't produce it anymore. We don't produce a single variety anymore in South Africa. You don't find it in South Africa, but we do produce a still wine, a straight still wine from it. I don't know if with your studies have you read up about Macabeo before?
Yeah, for sure. I know it's one of three varietals that are being used to produce Cave.
That's correct.
So it's for those who don't know, Cave is actually a traditionally produced sparkling wine.
And Corpinat. Have you heard of Corpinat?
No.
No, so there's a group of independent sparkling wine producers in the Penedès, the Cava region, or Spain. So they started their own thing, and they require all of their producers to be all organic or biodynamic.
Okay, nice.
And 85% needs to be those three varieties: Macabeo, Pareada, and Zarello.
Yeah, for sure.
You know your stuff, huh? Okay, so you're doing this for a good cause then. Yes, and they're only allowed to have about 15% of either Pinot Noir or Chardonnay. And obviously then there's the obvious, it needs to be a certain period of least contact, and it needs to be a whole bunch pressed and all that, because a lot of carvers are actually crushed in least stem, which is not the best for sparkling.
Yeah, for sure.
So this is the name of the town. It's situated Saint Paul de Fenouillet. So Fenouillet is, well, I'm not, my French is not the best, but as far as I know, Fenouillet
only after a few bottles of wine, the French comes out good.
Merci beaucoup. But Fenouillet, I think it means fennel.
Okay.
So there's a lot of naturally grown fennel in the area, and some of the locals say you can pick up a lot of fennel on the wines.
In the last episode, I spoke about the power of suggestion, and literally when you said fennel, that's what I'm picking up of this wine.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's exactly what I'm tasting now.
But Nathan, just tell me a little bit about yourself.
Okay.
What got you into winemaking and where you've produced wine thus far?
Okay, so how I got into wine. So my family is all essentially from the wine industry.
Okay.
You can still find a lot of my family members, cousins and uncles working at Kanonkop.
Nice.
Yeah, from my mother's side, they grew up at a farm called Valdrai, which is basically the farming community of Elsenburg.
Okay.
And my grandfather was I think he was the foreman in the pomology section for 45 years or something.
Oh wow.
And same with my grandmother. My grandmother was the assistant librarian. Is that a word? Librarian?
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry, I'm Afrikaans. I think collectively they worked there for close to a century.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my connection with the wine industry, and that's also how I got into Elsenburg. And then my father's family grew up at Kanonkop.
Okay.
And I still have many cousins and uncles still working at Kanonkop. So yeah, initially after school, wines wasn't really my first choice. I wanted to go into a more of a what do you call it? Physical sciences.
Oh, like a human movement science.
Something like that. There's something in that direction. But actually, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. And a romantic story would have been. I didn't find wine found me, but that's not
sweet.
That's not true. I literally didn't have anything to do with I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And the one day I went to my grandmother and I told her, well, it's the last option is now to study winemaking. So she hooked me up at Elsenburg, and that's how I got in.
Awesome. Well, I guess you
Took me
got
a while to finish, but
yeah. Well, you got into science, but you got into the right kind of science.
I suppose I did. Yeah, at the end of the day, yeah.
Well, I'm sure many people out there are very thankful that you made the decision to go into wine, especially your family. I'm sure they enjoy the fruits of Villiera Wines.
Yeah, I suppose so. Huh?
But so Nathan, when it comes down to production, how important is terroir? And in terms of Villiera, what makes the terroir here so special? I know this is a wine that's coming from France, but now I'm asking something specific to obviously Villiera.
No. Obviously, terroir is very important because where you're situated plays a big role in the wines you're going to produce at the end of the day. Certain terroirs give you a lot of minerality. Certain terroirs gives you higher acidity or low acidity. Gives you more color for red wine, more tannin, or less tannin. Most of our vineyards are grown on sandy soil with a clay layer underneath. So traditionally with sandy soils, I don't know if you've tasted some of the wines from, is it Canubi?
From where?
From Italy.
Red? No.
I think it's somewhere in the Piedmont. I'm not sure. But anyway, they're also famous for their sandy soils. And what you get is low tannin structure. In some cases, low color and low acidity as well. But you get a pretty decent, you get some really good fruity flavors coming from there. Yeah.
Okay. Quickly jumping back to this wine, we had a discussion earlier that, we were uncertain of how this wine was going to age, and we spoke about the acidity being used for, sparkling wine out in Spain. Yeah. We spoke about it. This wine carries great acidity, and this wine is developed incredibly well. I mean, it's 2015.
It is 2015.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it was.
It's a good vintage.
It's a good vintage, but I'm really impressed with how this wine is showing itself off right now.
No, look, and when I was there in 2016, just one vintage after this was made.
Okay.
And what I found amazing is they pick really ripe, and they barely ever have acidity problems.
Okay. Okay.
So they still end up with a high acidity even though they picked ripe. And there's a big dag en nacht temperatuur.
Like
day and evening temperatures is a big what do you call it?
The term is
variation.
Diurnal range. So if it's high diurnal range, it's a big difference between night and day.
temperatures.
And that plays a massive role in the grapes keeping that natural acidity or retaining it.
And the area where the grapes are situated is also a lot cooler than the town itself because. When we received grapes in from the vineyard, receiving it at 8 degrees Celsius was not uncommon. So it's really cool.
Damn, this wine is good. I don't know if it's just because it's got a foreign tone to it, but it is.
What do you think?
I think it's great. I think you should.
There's a little bit of goldenness. There's some roasted almonds going on there.
I was just about to say that's definitely that common tone of a bottle aged wine. Some honeysuckle, there is that fennel, it's got that nuttiness, but again, that acidity, there's a bit of like melon on it as well, so there's still quite a bit of fruit on the wine. I'm very impressed. So, obviously Villiera is very well known for the production of Cap Classique, but there's amazing still wines being produced on the estate. So I wanted to ask you, like in your opinion, what's the one still wine here that represents Villiera, rather than being a Cap Classique?
Chenin.
Yeah. And why is it?
Thinking.
Really? Yeah, that was a quick answer.
No, I don't know. No, we've been involved with Chenin Blanc. Well, I suppose Chenin Blanc in terms of white wine varieties is the driver of most wineries, especially in Stellenbosch, Swartland or wherever.
It's seen as a South African grape, eh?
It is a South African grape. I mean, if you go to Loire Valley, it's sort of, never mind, it's Chenin Blanc, it's what's grown here, and that's what we accept. But in South Africa, we really embrace it.
For sure.
Yeah, we see it as
the white pinotage. I nearly got slapped by a winemaker.
Offend some of your viewers here. Let's call it the white pinotage.
But Nathan, I wanted to get your opinion on like wine analysis and these award ceremonies that happen out there. How do you feel about blind tasting versus visual tasting?
Yes, bruh. How much time do you have? No, look. I don't know if you can look at this in a a scientific way. Where you can objectively look at certain parameters to measure quality of a certain product. But for wines, it's really difficult because of the subjective nature of a wine.
And of humans, like everybody's got their
exactly. Yes. How many times I've got into an argument where I argue that there's Brett in this wine, and then the next person argues there's no Brett in this wine, and then you do an analysis, and it ends up being Brett in the wine. And I don't know. It's, people's palates and noses, they differ, and it's in terms of, because you can sort of analytically determine what's in a wine and what you should be able to pick up in a wine. So you can test for guava flavors, you can test for horsey flavors, but there's some judges there that just pull things out of their asses, I think. Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. So I would much rather be entering. Sorry, I'm not a producer or anything, but I mean, I'd much rather be entering wines into a blind tasting versus something that's visual, because again, it's that power of suggestion. You see a label, you have a biased opinion on whether you think you do or not.
It's that's such an interesting point, because obviously with the blind tastings I've been involved in, you taste it blind and you score a wine high, and then the wine gets revealed and it's like, oh shit, that's actually. I don't know. You initially thought that would be a cuck wine, and then all of a sudden you change it. When you taste it again, sighted, then it tastes completely different.
But
I think the blind tasting is obviously the much more accurate way to go.
For sure. But I like how you brought this out and you had a laugh, because I've got something that's going to actually make you laugh. So a lot of people out there obviously won't know this, but a few years ago, Nathan, along with a few marketing managers and some wine enthusiasts, used to get together and actually do tastings. Remember these tastings that we used to do? And
that's when I first met you. You bought the bottle of Shiraz. What's it? Shiraz from Riebeck something.
I can't remember. But
apparently you told me that's the best Shiraz you've taken. Well, your go-to Shiraz.
Yeah, like the value for money. But what I wanted to say is that we used to get together and do these tastings, and we'd have a varietal specific tasting. So like this day we're doing Chardonnay.
Yeah.
And there was that one Chardonnay tasting that we did. There was about 15 different Chardonnays that came out. Now, keeping in mind that it's winemakers and marketing managers, people that have invested a lot of time and energy into the wine industry. Yeah. And what we do is that we taste the wines, score them, and at the end reveal the worst wines going onto the best wines. And that day in specific, amongst all of us, well, there's always that one person. So there's one person that was cheeky enough to bring a bottle of Sauvignon. And that Sauvignon made it to number 4. I remember. And so all of us sat there probably reconsidering whether or not we need to be in the wine industry or if we deserve to be there. Yes, we laughed.
That was embarrassing, but I think at that point we all had a bit of a buzz on us. So we were forgiven.
But we need to start those tastings.
We need to do that again, yeah. I remember that I actually thought you were Afrikaans when I first met you.
It's the beard, eh?
No, not just that. Just there's a little snow on your beard now.
Yeah. Okay. The wine industry is aging me very well. Yeah.
No, but everyone referred to you as Gareth with an F.
Yeah.
So that's why I thought you from Brackenfell or something.
Careful, now you're going to offend some people out there. No, just jokes.
I'm from Brackenfell.
Oh, is it? Okay, then it's fine. It's like when I make Eastern Cape jokes, people get offended, but I'm like, I'm from there. I'm the right to make
no
these
longer
jokes.
offensive.
So, Nathan, when it comes to the wine industry as a whole, do you have any pet peeves?
Well, something that really, really annoys me is something like this, when it's too planned and too rehearsed and too robotic. This is more natural. This flows,
good.
This is an actual conversation. So, when you do a tasting, especially with these recent Paris Zoom tastings we had to do during lockdown,
for sure.
That irritated the living crap out of me.
I mean, I understand the importance of doing these, but again, like you say, if it's too scripted,
just get into a flow. Just
let the wine bring out the conversation.
And I mean, by doing that, you learn more about the person as well, the person behind this product you're enjoying or whatever. But that irritates me. And personally, I think the wine industry is a bit too stiff in general. I suppose it differs from region to region. The guys in the Swart, those guys are rough.
Those guys, they've been making tequila. That's
exactly. No, I think areas, and I'm probably going to be cucked out at some point by a lot of people. But I think this Stellenbosch and the likes of Stellenbosch and and Franschhoek or wherever, they can learn a lot from the SWAT one guys.
Yeah. I think like, well, in my opinion, we are part of the new World Winemaking Society, but some of the places are still stuck in an old way. So I think like there will be a gradual, I mean, obviously I'm not saying this to step on toes and whatnot, but it is a reality that there will be a generational shift in the new group of individuals that are going to take the wine industry into the future.
No, for sure. The tuppies are stepping down now, slowly but surely.
And I mean, we all respect what they've done and what they've done for the industry.
Yeah, yeah.
Although there is a time for
and we've
change.
learned a shitload from them. So.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
But I mean, the new how do you say? The new overgrows the old. It's natural.
Yeah, it's like vineyards.
Dank Leonie said that.
But so Nathan, what's the craziest thing you've ever witnessed or had to endure during a harvest?
Witnessed the craziest thing I had to endure was, and I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say this either because I think it's probably illegal, but we all agreed to it. I think the craziest thing was when I was harvesting at the Morganson. I think this was in 2013, and we worked straight through for a 37-hour shift.
Yes, damn.
I was, we were at the sorting table, sorting out Cabernet. This was probably at 3 a.m. and we were all standing there like this, catching fish. And the winemaker at the time was Carl van der Merwe. And the moment we started talking kak, hey, Carl was shouting, hey, less talking, more sorting. So I think I learned a lot from that. I'll never do it again. But that was kind of crazy. There are crazier moments, but I don't think I can share it with everyone.
So recently you featured, I don't know how recent it is, but I've got the magazine at home. But you recently featured on the front page of Gilbert and Gilead magazine. How did that make you feel?
I'm not sure.
I was like, no ways. I know Nathan, that's legit.
I just spoke cock about the French and now I was in front on a French magazine. Well, there wasn't, I was just on the front page. It was the article that was written was actually had to do with Villiera and Pebbles and all that. But how it made me feel, embarrassed for whoever looked at it. I don't know. Fuck.
Well, I thought you were looking ravishing.
Like an old picture, man.
So Nathan, what's your ethos when it comes to winemaking? What's your motto to your production of uniquely crafted wines?
Look, I try to take a scientific approach with everything I do, or as scientific as I can. But I realize that that's not always. You can't just rely on science to produce something mind-boggling. I think there needs to be a little bit of input, insight from experience, something artistic, something out of the ordinary, something to excite the palate. If it's too
scripted.
If it's too scripted, here we go. If it's too scripted, then it just becomes boring. It doesn't become a talking point at all. Well, there's no talking points to mention. So. I think the older I don't consider myself as artistic, but I think the older, the more I work in the wine industry, the more I realize, well, something else needs to be done. For sure. It's just time to grab out the creativity or whatever. But
I've always said that that winemaking has to be seen as part of the arts. I'm sorry, it's an expression of creativity that comes. From
no, I wouldn't have agreed with you 3 years ago, but I do now.
So Nathan, do you have any advice to give to anybody out there who's just starting out with their appreciation of wine or their journey into wine?
Take it slow. Take it slow, and I suppose never judge too early. If I'm talking about me personally, with wines tasted in the past, there's some wines that didn't taste good to me at all 5 years ago, but it tastes phenomenal now. I think it's that because when I started out drinking, like everyone else, I started out with sweet stuff, namakwa, I mixed it with a little bit of stony, and that's how I got the buzz on. And then that eventually evolved to some classier reds like Tassenberg, and eventually work your way up. I never used to like bubblies. I love it now. Because it was just too acidic. I think my palate was just a bit too foreign for my palate.
Are you sure it's not because you bias because you work at Villiera?
What?
I'm joking. But I like how you say that. Take your time because the culture of wine appreciation or the production of wine. It's centuries and centuries. Old. You can't rush that enthusiasm or the passion or the understanding. You need to take your time. You need to take wine slowly in so that you can truly understand and let it speak to you. I know it sounds cheesy, but I mean it's real.
Yeah, the thing I regret most is I went to with Elsenburg. I went to France in Boon, a small town in Burgundy, in 2009, and the whole rugby team received a bottle as a gift, a bottle of Pinot Noir from one of the small villages in Boon. It's supposed to be, I can't remember the name of the village or the wine, but I kept that in my cupboard and I drank it a year later and it tasted cuck. But the thing is, it didn't taste cuck because at the time I told you my family's connection with Canon Kop. So I was used to cadet. I was used to Canon Kop cadet. And that's what I expected. I expected something big because I heard this wine is good and it's expensive. But unfortunately, I drank it, and at that stage, I didn't really understand Pinot Noir. So I really pissed off at myself.
But also, Pinot Noir is also one of those varietals that often carry that barnyard, forest floor funkiness to it.
Yes.
Kevin Grant, actually, funny enough, I took him into the trader once, and he said he would go out telling clients, like, listen, if this wine doesn't smell like it's got shit in it, then it's not good. I'm like, wow. That's why, how can you not love you winemakers? You know what I mean?
For me, as a winemaker, shit either refers to breadth or reduction.
Or quality. No, just joke. That'll put me under fire. But yeah, so lastly, I wanted to ask you, how do you think this wine is showing itself off to you after all these years?
I think it's freaking fantastic.
Oh, damn. I need a little bit more, please.
Yeah, of course. We probably need to clap this bottle.
Yeah, for sure. It's a beautiful day on the farm, by the way.
Yeah.
And I guess it's also nice to get out of the cellar for a bit too.
At this time of the year, I'm not really in the cellar, I'm in the office.
So obviously...
Pretending to read emails.
So the best thing is that this series that I'm putting together from the horse's mouth, it's really special because I'm getting to taste amazing wines, which are older vintage, really special rare wines, along with winemakers, where we hear it straight from the horse's mouth. But you guys are kind enough and generous enough to sponsor an extra bottle, which is going to a mixed case of 6.
Yeah.
And the viewers out there can get their hands on these wines. All they need to do is just make a small donation to my educational campaign. The information that's needed is found over here, but all they have to do is just scan the QR code.
No less than $1,000 please per person.
Or you guys can follow the link in the description. But the whole thing about this is getting you these wines, exposing your palate to these wines, so that we can, again, blast that myth of wines can't age.
Yeah.
For the industry, again, I say it over and over again, for the industry to really evolve, we need to get these wines out there. People need to understand that wine shouldn't be rushed. Again, something that you pointed on earlier.
Yeah. But, you get two types of wine drinkers. You get, or wine consumers. You get the ones that drink wines that fairly early.
Yeah.
Like myself, I don't like aging wines. My father likes keeping stuff.
Okay.
And I tell him, the stuff is meant to be drunk. I still have let's skip that. No. But you're right. Me personally, I don't like aging wines. When it comes to red wines, I love roughness.
Me too.
I love a lot of tannin. I love a red wine that you muscle, can eat.
Damn.
A lot of muscle. So I actually like the tannins, and I don't want that tannins to soften. I want it as is. But for some that might be more pleasurable to wait for a while.
Yeah, for sure.
And wait till it softens.
For sure.
So yeah, I suppose it will give you a lot more pleasure, and it will give you a completely different flavor profile.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Well, folks, that's going to bring us to the conclusion of today's tasting. I just want to say thanks again to Nathan. Thanks for your time. Thanks for sharing this amazing wine with me. Yeah. And before we love and leave you, I'd like to just remind all of you that there's no standard when it comes to your enjoyment for wine. And remember, be kind
and drink good wine.
Cheers.